Hi, it's Storm from Ninja Bunny Crochet. Today I have for us to do this really cute pocket shawl. This is very easy to make. It's basically all double crochets and this crisscross double crochet, which is a double crochet, just a slight variation. There is one rows in between the double crochets on the crisscross double crochet of single crochet, but basically it's very easy to do. This is the pocket and then the shawl pattern itself, and we have fringe on the ends. Very easy to do, just like the picture shows. It's kind of hard to get the whole thing in the camera, but I will show you all the yarn and the hooks and whatnot that you need to make this shawl. I used Red Heart Super Saver. This particular color is called Aran Fleck. Let me bring the camera down a little bit closer here for you. This color is called Aran Fleck. I used approximately, I would say 15 ounces, so that would be, let's see, they're 260 yards each, so we're talking about 780 to 800 yards of this yarn. It is a medium 4 worsted weight yarn. This is 96% acrylic and 4% other fibers. That's those little flecks in there. You do not have to use this particular yarn. You can use any medium 4 yarn that you wish. I used a J 6.0 millimeter hook, so you will need one of those. You'll want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle to weave in your ends, some pins when you're pinning on the pocket to sew the pocket on, and you might want to have some stitch markers on hand too. They came in particularly handy, especially when placing the pocket. So once you have all your supplies, let's get started. To start the shawl, you're going to want to start with a chain of 178. For today, I'm going to show you a smaller sample of what your shawl will look like. Since I've already completed my shawl, I'm going to start with a chain of 38. This will be exactly the same, just I'm going to be doing a shorter piece. But I will include the stitch counts for the actual shawl for you. So start with your chain of 78. For this piece, I recommend that you flip your chain over and work in these back bars for your first row. It'll give your piece a finished edge on both sides, on the starting chain side and your endings, your finished side as well. So we're going to work 4th chain from hook. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch, so we're going to go in these back bars. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to start in this 4th chain with a double crochet. And place 1 double crochet into each of the remaining chains all the way to the end. Just take your time, because this is a long chain. So just place 1 double crochet into each one of those back bars of the chain. When you get to the end of the chain, you should have 176 stitches, because that beginning chain 3 will count as a stitch. So I'll meet back up with you at the end of the chain. I'm at the end of the chain. You should have 176 double crochets, including that chain 3 at the beginning that counts as a stitch. To start row 2, you're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work, and since our chain 3 counts as a stitch, we are not going to work this first stitch. We're going to go to the next stitch and work a double crochet, and work a double crochet into each stitch all the way across till we get to the end of the row again, and we'll have again 176 double crochets. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row, and at the end of the row we have that chain 3 left. You want to make sure you don't miss that, because that is your last stitch. Your chain 3 counts as a stitch in this pattern. So that'll complete row 2, and you should have 176 stitches again in this row. We're going to do one more row of double crochet, and then the next row we'll do the double crochet crisscross stitch. So go ahead and chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work. Again, this chain 3 counts as a stitch, so we're not going to work this stitch. We're going to go to the next one and work our first double crochet, and continue working double crochet all the way across till we get to the end of the row, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 3. We still have 176 stitches. To start row 4, we're going to chain up 3 and turn the work. This is where we're going to start the crisscross stitch. So remember, the chain 3 counts as a stitch, so we're going to skip that first stitch, we're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to double crochet into that third stitch. Now we're going to go back and double crochet into that stitch that we just skipped. So yarn over, reach back, go back into that stitch that you just skipped. So you can see that you're in both loops. Pull up a loop and complete your double crochet. So it makes this cross pattern. We're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next one. Okay, then we're going to go back and double crochet into that skipped stitch. So again, make sure you get both loops. And double crochet. I'm going to show it to you one more time. Skip the next stitch, go and double crochet into the next. And we're going to go back and double crochet into that skip stitch. Just like that. Skip the next stitch, double crochet, and we're going to go back and get that skipped stitch. If you have to turn and look to make sure you got both of those loops, that's okay. Eventually you'll get to the point where you won't have to turn and look at that. Skip the next stitch, go into the next one, and double crochet. You're going to go back and get that skip stitch, and you're going to continue working this pattern all the way across till you get to the last stitch, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. And at the end of row 4, I did my last double crochet crisscross, and we have that turning chain left. So we're going to go into the turning chain and place a top of the turning chain and place a double crochet to end the row. So get a look at how that looks. To start row 5, we're going to chain 1 and turn the work. Now row 5, we're going to do single crochet. So we're going to go in that first stitch and place a single crochet. And we're going to put one single crochet into each stitch. So you still should have the 176 stitches in row 4, and at the end of row 5 you will still have 176 stitches. Your stitch count will remain the same. So continue placing one single crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 5 and we have that turning chain left, so we're going to go ahead and place a single crochet in the top of the turning chain to end the row. To start row 6, we're going to chain 3, and that's going to count as a double crochet. I'm going to turn the work, and we're going to start another row of crisscrosses. So again, we're going to skip that first stitch, skip the next stitch, and we're going to place a double crochet into that third stitch. Go back and get the skipped stitch and place a double crochet into it, like so. Skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Go back and get that skipped stitch with a double crochet. And skip the next stitch, double crochet, and go back and get the skipped stitch with a double crochet. You're going to continue that pattern all the way across. Skip the next stitch, double crochet, go back and get that skip stitch with a double crochet. And continue this all the way to get to the end of the row, and in the top, well, excuse me, won't be the top of the turning chain this time, it's going to be your last stitch is going to be a double crochet. Again, your stitch counts are always the same, 176. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 6. We're going to place our last double crochet at the end of the row to complete the row. We still have 176 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn the work. Now row 7 will be a single crochet row. Row 8 will be crisscross. Row 9 will be single crochet, and row 10 will be crisscross. I'm going to start you off on row 7, and then I'll meet back up with you on at the end of row 10. So we're going to go ahead and start our single crochets. Remember, your stitch counts will always remain the same, 176. Row 7, single crochet, 8 crisscross, 9 single crochet, and 10 crisscross. And I will meet back up with you at the end of row 10. I'm at the end of row 10. We still have 176 stitches. To start row 11, we're going to chain up 3, turn the work, and for rows 11 through 13 are going to be exactly the same. We're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch. Remember that first stitch, the chain 3 counts as a stitch, so we're going to skip that first stitch and we're going to go to the next stitch and we're going to do a double crochet. And 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way across. Your stitch counts will stay the same. So we're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch for rows 11 through 13, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 13. At the end of row 13, we still have our 176 stitches, or you will have your 176 stitches. Now to complete the shawl, you're going to want to repeat from row 4, which is the first time you did your double crochet crisscrosses, to row 13, which is the end of your 3 rows of double crochet, 2 more times. That should give you approximately a 20-inch wide shawl. If you want your shawl a little bit wider, you can always repeat that 3 more times to give yourself a little bit wider shawl. It's really up to you. So once you've done all that, you can set your shawl aside and we'll work on the pockets. So I will come back and show you how to work on the pockets, and then once we get our pockets done, we'll put it all together. To start the pocket, we're going to start with a chain of 38. Just like the shawl, we're going to start 4th chain from hook. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch. Flip your chain over, and we're going to work on the back bars just like we did with the shawl. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 with a double crochet. And we're going to double crochet our way down the chain in these back bars. So keep working 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way down the chain to get to the end of the chain, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the chain. At the end of row 1, we have 36 stitches because our chain 3 in the beginning counts as a stitch. So we're going to chain up 3, turn the work. And because our chain 3 counts as a stitch, we're going to skip that first stitch and go into the next. And double crochet in each stitch across. And we're going to work a total of 12 rows of double crochet. This is row 2, so you're going to work let's see, this is row 2, so we're going to work 10 more rows of double crochet for a total of 12 rows. So continue working double crochet back and forth for 12, so we have a total of 12 rows, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 12. I'm at the end of row 12. We still have 36 stitches. To start row 13, we're going to chain up 3, turn the work, and just like we did on the shawl, we're going to do a row of the crisscross stitch. So we're going to skip the first stitch because the chain 3 counts as a stitch, skip the next stitch, and in the next one, put a double crochet. Then we're going to reach back and get that skipped stitch with a double crochet. Skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Skip the next stitch. Excuse me. We're going to reach back and grab that skipped stitch. and double crochet in it. Then we're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Reach back and grab that skipped stitch and double crochet. So this is working the crisscross stitch just like we did on the shawl. Skip the next stitch, double crochet, reach back, grab that skipped stitch, and double crochet. Continue working this all the way across till you get to the last stitch where you'll place one double crochet, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of row 13, and we're going to chain up one, turn the work. We still have 36 stitches, and this is going to be a single crochet row. So we're going to single crochet in that first stitch and in each stitch across. Our stitch count will remain 36. The stitch count will not change. When we get to the end of this row, we're going to do one more crisscross row, then 2 rows of double crochet. So 1 row for row 14 of single crochet, 1 row of crisscross for row 15, and 16 and 17 will be double crochet. So I will meet back up with you at the end of row 17. Okay, here is the complete finished pocket. We have 2 rows of the crisscross and 2 more rows of double crochet. You want to make 2 of these pockets, and we're going to sew them onto the shawl. This is how we're going to sew our shawl together. I can't fit the whole shawl in the camera, so I figured I would draw out a picture for you. So you're going to lay your shawl out lengthwise. It should be, mine came out approximately 60 inches length and about 20 inches wide. If you wanted to add that extra width on there, yours would be a little bit wider. Then you're going to lay your pockets out. I put mine about 2 to 3 stitches in from the bottom, and then about 3 rows in on either side. Like I said, if you added that extra length, you're going to have to adjust your pockets to get them centered. You're going to sew them down along the sides and the bottom, leaving this part here open on either side. We're going to attach the fringe along these ends here and on this side over here. You're going to want to cut 176 pieces that are about 22 inches long, and what I did is I put my fringe in each end of the rows, or approximately each end of the rows. I used 4 pieces in each of the tassels, and I will get that to show you what that looks like. Because I've got one end already completed. So here is, let me see if I can get the camera up high enough to show you the pocket. So here is one end of the shawl with your pocket right here, and these are the tassels completed on the shawl. so you can see how I did the tassels for the shawl. I used 4 strands like that. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I pin this down and exactly how I put the tassels on, to show you exactly where I was placing this on. Okay, so here's the corner and here's the pocket. So I went about 4 stitches up is actually what I did. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and where your first row of crisscross is, so it's basically at here's your first crisscross stitch. You're going to put your pocket corner right at the second crisscross stitch. And you want to keep it, so you're going to just pin that right down like that. And then you're going to keep pinning it down all the way up. Now what I did is I went ahead and counted the stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So it'd be about 35 actually when you spread out your pocket here. So at about 30, the 35th stitch in is where your corner is. So what I did there is I went and got a stitch marker at that 35th stitch and marked it so I can make sure that I get it on even on the other side, so I know exactly what stitch, so that my pocket isn't crooked on the shawl. And you're going to want to make sure that you're even keeping it lined up so your pocket isn't crooked. So bring your shawl, turn it, and you're going to look for those crisscrosses again. Make sure you got your second crisscross and put your corner there. And pin it down. And then you're going to want to make sure you got as straight as you can. Make sure it's fairly, it's fairly even so that you're not, your pocket looks nice and straight. Make sure you got an even, so it's not pretty crooked here. You want to make sure you get about the same amount of space. And just put a couple of pins there to hold it down. And again, you're going to do the same thing on this side that you did on the other side. You want to keep it right to that crisscross row. But since you got to go up 35 stitches, so you can go ahead and count those stitches and grab yourself a stitch marker. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So go ahead and place a stitch marker, and you can put that corner right there too. Make sure the corner is on the crisscrosses. And then just go ahead and pin that down. Make sure you're pinning them onto the crisscrosses, not on the row of double crochet. And you go ahead and thread up a yarn needle and start sewing down the pocket. So you have your pocket placed on there. I don't know if I can't get the whole thing into the camera, but I would start either on either one of the upper corners of your pocket and then just go all the way around the pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing that just to kind of give you an idea of how to sew it down. So let me get a piece of yarn and my yarn needle. Now how I do this, I go ahead and put a slip knot onto the end of my yarn and come up from the back side and when that slip knot hits, just leave it there and come back down. Go through the slip knot, go through that slip knot, see there's the slip knot, go through it and tighten down that slip knot, and then it's on and you can weave this tail in. Now just go back and forth, sewing on the pocket. Now I keep taking the pins out too as you go along, so you might want to keep your pin case there so you can throw your pins in there as you go along. What I did is I like kind of lifted it up, make sure that the crisscrosses stitches were there, and then just went through and through. And I just used small stitches and went all the way around the pocket. And if you run out of yarn on this one, then you just hook up another one, do another slip knot. So I'm going to continue sewing the pocket on off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how to add your fringe, and we'll be all done. Okay, I've got my pocket sewn on and I've got a bunch of yarn cut approximately 22 inches long. I don't really have it measured, I just wrapped it around a book, so I have an estimated. I'm going to take 4 strands at a time and kind of like you want to get them lined up as evenly as possible. And fold them in half. So you have them folded up like this. Let me move these over out of the way here for a minute. And start in the corner and just kind of stick your hook in and find a spot and pull them through. Pull them through and voila! You have tassels or fringe. So Let's do that again. I'm going to get 4 more. And get them all lined up together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me just kind of back the camera down there a little bit so you can see, get all 4 lined up. Fold them in half. And don't worry if they're a little bit uneven because you can trim them up afterwards. Get them looped. Stick the hook in. And make sure you have all 4 of them. Pull it through like this. And voila. Those first 2 are probably the most difficult because they're in the ends of those rows. And then after that, you've got these, if you look at the ends, you have the holes. And that's really where I looped them in. Now my other side has 22 along the end. So you want to make sure that you have 22 on this side. If you get 23, that's fine. You get 24, that's fine. Just make sure no matter if you have whatever number you have on one side, you match that on the other side. So again, I'll show you one more time. You just want to get 4 strips. Now, if you want to use less strands per tassel, you can too, or you can use more, whichever you prefer. I like 4 because I think that works out to a very nice size tassel. And I'm going to stick it into that spot right there around that chain 3. And got a nice little thing right there, and just pull it through and tighten them down. And there you have it. So we're just going to continue working these tassels all the way down the end, and then once we have them all done, we're going to hang it over the edge of the desk, and we'll just trim them so that they're all nice and even. And I'll be right back. Here's all the tassels or fringe all attached, and the pocket is all sewn together. So I will put up a picture of the completed shawl. If you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring that bell so you won't miss any of my tutorials. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!